I've been listening to Gord Downie's Introduce Yourself for several days now, and it's a record that is inspiring, it's hauntingly beautiful, empowering, and just emotionally present. It's a record that reminds me very much so of David Bowie's Black Star and Mount Erie's A Crow Looked at Me. It's a delicate record, a personal record, yet a universal record, and it's perhaps one of the best things I've heard this year. It spans over 23 songs and it's a little over an hour long. And there's nothing that I can actually say that properly conveys the emotional depth of Gord Downie's last record. So rather than really trying to explain what it's about and explain how it sounds and really get into the intricacies of it, I'd rather just read the last portion of the last song on the record. It's a song called The North. And if anything, I think these lyrics show how Gord Downie was not simply a singer, not simply a performer with the Tragically Hip, not simply an entertainer, but a poet. And his poetry and the words he says and his work with the Tragically Hip and his work in Canada working with First Nations and doing all of that great, great work leaves a legacy that is inspiring and makes me personally want to be a better person, to do better, to be better. And you might be asking why or how can an album do this? It's not just an album. This is not just me reflecting on an album. It's reflecting on a person's life work and a life's work beyond music. That music is great. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful release. It's a wonderful way to become a community, to be part of a community. But it's also something that breathes life into people. It can breathe life in the saddest, most desperate situations. And so I'd like to give you a little example of Downie's writing. And the last track on Introduce Yourself is called The North. And this is the last verse on this record. He says, "Hello, boys out in the bush. Let's forget things for a while. Let's turn our faces to the sun and get whatever warmth there is. In the unnoticed world, the misunderstood world, undescribable world, they interested anyone. Turn our faces to the sun and get whatever warmth there is." A lot of that song is, dealing with exploring Canada. And a lot of Introduce Yourself, as he says in a video, are these little letters he's written to individual people, one or two people. So this is personal. Yet, within that very personal delivery, speaking to, as he says, the boys, there's very much this fight and also this recognition that the world that we live in, the world that we inhabit, for all its faults, for all its, issues and problems that humans are causing, that we can get this moment of peace by looking at the sun and getting whatever warmth we can get from it. And if you're unfamiliar with Downie's story, he was, at the time of recording this record, living with brain cancer. And he passed away shortly before this record was released. So there's something very powerful to Introduce Yourself with these lines, with these words, with this song. And it's even more powerful to call an album Introduce Yourself, as if we have already known Gord Downie for 3 decades. He still has many more things to say. He still has things to get off his chest, things to express and things to create. And Introduce Yourself is a fantastic reflection on a life well lived, but also a life that was still being lived. His life was not done yet. And I think that's pretty great. that there's no point in giving up, that there's no point in just allowing the situation or the circumstances to dictate how you understand your world, to change who you are. If an album and a story in Gord Downie's life can make me feel that way, and to give me, as I speak, this heaviness in my heart, then it's a successful record. It's a successful piece of art. And hopefully it's something that will be listened to by many, many people. With Introduce Yourself, with everything he's made with a Tragically Hip, with everything he's written as a solo artist, as a poet, everything he's done in Canada, everything he's done for people around the world, that's a legacy that anyone would be proud of. And happily, even though Gord Downie as a individual person has passed away, every person who appreciates, enjoys, reads, listens to his work has a little bit of Gord Downie within them. It's cliche, but isn't that what we try to get out of life? To help others, to be with others, to inspire others, to have others inspire us, to exist together. I think that's one lesson that Gord Downie has taught many people. And I hope it's a lesson that, especially in these very, trying times, very interesting times, that we remember that we work better together as opposed to against one another. Yeah. So Gord Downie's Introduce Yourself, perhaps one of my favorite records of this year. I suggest you go listen to it.